So does believing in God mean you have to not believe in what your science book tells you? We're talking about that today on the Why Do Christians podcast. Hey, welcome to the show. My name is Mark Dickey. I host the afternoon show on the Bridge radio station. My co-hosts are Pastor Burt and Pastor Josh. How you guys doing today?
I'm scientifically
exceptional.
Exceptional.
Bill. So I was thinking about how a lot of people become Christians in their youth, usually before they start studying biology and just all the different sciences. And I've heard the story a few times where the more educated a person got, the more they had to start kind of compromising what they were learning or what they believed. Like, okay, what I'm learning is telling me something different than what the Bible said. And either I have to just pretend that this isn't real, or I need to change what I believe. And it's almost like people kind of educate their way out of being a Christian. Or to put it very bluntly and probably offend somebody.
Let's go.
I've become too smart to be a Christian. You know what I mean? Like, Christians don't believe the educated point of view. And does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard it said in the sense of I've been too smart. Well, that's not true. Who was it? I think Bill Maher at one point he called Christianity like selective stupidity or something like that. Where it's the idea with faith. Okay, if I'm intellectually honest, I can't hold to theism, like the belief in God, because there's so much that just isn't quantified or is observed to the contrary. That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly that thing.
Well, I'm excited for us to dive into that today, and particularly to finally settle the age-old debate about God's existence. And I can't wait for Josh DePeach to really just nail it. So.
Knock it out of the park, Josh.
Oh, okay.
Yours.
Why is evolution bad? Go.
It's okay.
Young Earth, go.
So, I mean, right. So, in response to that,
If God created everything, who created God?
Oh, go.
Everything. Oh, yeah. But in response to the whole thinking one, thinkers, I think just over the history of the Christian faith, it's been defended by some really intelligent, smart people. All kinds of scientists, mathematicians. I mean, you can just go through a list of some of the, I would say some of the greatest thinkers have said, no, we do have reason to believe specifically in the Christian God and in the scriptures. So I would question that. I think a lot if someone said that, the smarter I got, the less reason I have to believe in the faith. I would say, well, no, I think the smarter you get, the more reason you have to look into the faith. Mainly because I think one of the things I've learned from the smartest people I know is the more I've come to know, the less I realize I know.
Socrates.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So, okay, but I don't know. I just feel like that's a
True knowledge is knowing that you know nothing.
Oh, wow. That's Socrates or Mr. Miyagi.
Or Jon
Well, it's from
Snow.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and they're
Okay.
like, dude, that's us.
There you go. So here, but I feel like, can we just, I feel like that's a broad sweep.
Okay.
Right. So if we're saying, all right, I've learned some things and that really is giving me a difficult time with theism, like belief in God, or the Christian faith specifically, like what kinds of stuff are we talking about here? I think it might help. Are we saying like it's just science versus faith? Are we saying it's evolution versus 7-day creation? Like what is it that we're getting at here?
I mean, I got to tell you, I've heard it always seems to come back to evolution or creation, and I feel like that argument just never stops.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like we've done 2 or 3 of that episode already over the years.
Well, I think it's important to realize, I mean, and if you're in this place where you're going like, man, I'm being confronted by these things, and I don't know how to reconcile that with the Christian faith. I think there are a few things to realize. One, let's understand that science can only be a metric like for observation. It can't determine meaning. right? So like, even if you believe, all right, the universe is billions and billions of years old, and you might have, all right, here's, I get that from this microwave here or whatever. It can't give substance as to the why the universe exists. Nothing that's ever been observed can get rid of the idea of a God. So for instance, we take the most popular theory of origins aside from the Bible, which would be Big Bang, right? Okay. Big Bang, by the way, developed by a priest, not a scientist, but was a scientist. But anyway, so the idea that like, okay, the universe started out something the size of a finger, then just in a moment, everything explodes into existence and things develop, right? And if it does that, like the ripples would be observed, and here now are the ripples. Big Bang does not account for how everything came to being in terms of like what began that explosion, right? Like Big Bang actually teaches you that the universe had a beginning, which means that the universe is not eternal. If the universe is not, and this was always the point of debate. I'm thinking about like, decades ago, like Carl Sagan, who was a famous nerd scientist, and Carl Sagan would say, all right,
neuroscience?
Nerd. He's a nerd
scientist. Okay.
Famous scientist, particularly in I think the 70s. And he would say things like, the universe has always been and the universe will always be. Like the consensus of his belief in no God was the universe is eternal. Now, Big Bang says that's not the case. So if the universe has a beginning, it must have a beginner. What's greater than the universe to cause it? We want to be careful to not go. There's a thing called the God of the gaps, which is the idea that if I can't explain it, therefore it must be God. And we don't want to shift into that. But we're now talking about something that has agency and size and power and dare I say intelligence to cause such a single explosion to create concrete amounts of matter, concrete amounts of gravitational force, right? So like the force of the explosion has to be so strong, it has to be perfect, because if it's too powerful, things won't coalesce. If it's too weak, things will just implode on each other. So the explosion itself has to be intelligent, like just really to a crazy amount. So it's not as simple as, well, here's what I can observe, so therefore no God. What I can observe tells me there must be something beyond what I can observe.
Yeah. Okay. So what I feel like I'm hearing, and what you're saying is like there's a difference between the what and the why. Like science is good at the what. Yeah. In terms of observation. What I can see. Yeah. What I can see, what we can deduce. And as time goes on, we get so much better at that. And like scripture is it's great at the why. I think of what is it in Psalms 19 where it says like the heavens declare the glory of God. Mm-hmm. So this idea that well, if you can see the what, you can look at scripture and see this amazing wisdom and the why and the extent of God's plans and desires for mankind. If you break away, you're missing this grand purpose and design of God in caring and loving for people and bringing them close to Him. Where then you're just stuck with, oh, here's the business of the day. Here's why things are, and so they're not in conflict.
They're completely different questions.
Yes, like and they answer completely different questions. And so that's what I'm kind of hearing you say. Like they're not in conflict like we think they are. I think people put them in conflict.
Yeah, like I think so a popular misconception is that if I leave belief in God, that leads to no belief. In other words, like, to believe in a creator, to believe in doctrines, tenets of the faith, if I ditch those, what I will now adhere to is what's rational and what is only observed. And that's incorrect. To reject the faith is to embrace a new system of belief, which has in itself its own areas that you're going to have to make some leaps.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of them being, so let's say, all right, I'm going to ditch God for atheism. There's nothing. There's only what is observed. Right. Okay. Well, the problem there is that what's observed doesn't account for what is. right? So like we've mentioned the idea of origins, but it goes beyond that. Like there are just some things that you're going to have to become okay with. So, for instance, like C.S. Lewis, he talked about this idea of the divine should, right? So you have to explain why there is something in us that demands a reality that does not exist, right? So like what is it that's in us as human beings that say, all right, things should be this way or they should be that way? That there's nothing in natural selection that can account for that, because in fact, like, our values of compassion, caring for the weaker, those kinds of, like, those don't really work if only the strong survive. You can't account for, like, because basically if there is no God, if all we are is essentially a clump of cells that's reacting to stimuli, right? Then what you're going to have to now choose to embrace, number one, is a faith that things have come from nothing, which nothing has ever shown that to be the case.
Nothing.
Okay, so you, like, that's a gap in your belief, but you could take that jump in your logic. But number two, you're going to have to account for this idea that really nothing that you believe matters. Okay, that essentially, right and wrong, they don't exist. They're just things that we have made up to make ourselves feel better. But there is no such thing as a universal standard of right and wrong. Hey, you have to account for the idea that you don't exist, that all you are is a body, and this idea of your entire worth, it's something that you're imposing, but there's no real substance to you. Like you are just chemical. Like, these are things that you can say it's true, okay, but you've got to be willing to accept that these are jumps in logic, and they are intentional embracings in areas of faith. So it's not, okay, I ditch belief for rational. No, I ditch belief for another set of beliefs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the why always has to exist.
Yes.
It's going to exist somewhere, somehow. Like, I think during my time in college, I wanted to be a hypnotist for a little bit.
What?
It was like a random
episode.
Side quest.
I had some time in my hands. It was like, hypnotism. Okay, let's try it. And then I started reading some books, and I realized, oh my goodness, we have no idea. Like, this thing is so complicated and so deep. Like, how is this? I gave up real fast. But yes, it was a side quest for a little while. I went and saw a guy do it, and I was like, maybe I could do this. And then I started reading books, and I'm like, probably
wait a
can't.
second.
Yeah.
This was in college?
Yeah, this was
Which
college.
is, you went to college to be a pastor?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So at the time, you thought becoming a
Don't judge
hypnotist blurred and worked just fine with the beliefs that you had. All
No,
right.
I didn't. I just was a college kid and was like, oh, I saw a guy do it. Maybe I could do it too. That was the extent of my thinking.
Okay. All right.
But it influenced you enough that you thought, I'll abandon my career trajectory to be like swaying watches. Is that, you are getting sleepy?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
We
Back
need to
to
stay on
science. Hold on.
topic.
Yes.
We need to
So-
stay on topic.
Back to science, though.
So here's
What's the
that
connection there?
Connects to is that science can't answer those questions.
Hypnotism?
Yes, and
I
like
can't answer hypnotism.
other things like love, justice,
Yeah.
mercy, like the feeling of this is not right. Right would be this other thing.
Yeah.
There are these things where, just like you said, that if to think that
Love is
dumping
just an attachment.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
or just chemicals in your brain. No, there's a lot more there. To think that we could dump God and Christian faith and we'll just move to logical. I mean, how do you explain hypnotism? I don't know.
The Great Dupiche.
Wow.
But it was just so complex. It was just so interesting to see how much science just had so many questions, and people were taking leaps and bounds into things that they couldn't answer.
Well, yeah, like and to maybe take it a little more. let's go with things that we see in the Bible.
Yeah.
Things like prophecy,
Yeah.
where like human beings know things about other people
Yeah.
that they should not know. How do you explain that?
Yeah.
This happens, and depending on what you believe and your if you're a Christian watching this, depending on the sect of Christianity and your beliefs, like you'll have different things you agree and disagree on, but like it happens today.
Yeah. And to that point, how do you explain the like documented, properly well-documented miraculous healing? Like someone who was absolutely going to die or absolutely in pain, kind of suffering, and then it's no longer the case.
Right.
Had a tumor and now it's gone.
Right.
We have the scan from last week.
Right.
We prayed, and now this week it's gone.
And what the cynic will do is they'll say, well, yeah, but cancer just disappears sometimes. And the answer is, yeah, but not like that.
Not like this.
Yeah, but that's okay. But hold on, like that's the thing, though, right? That also what you have to acknowledge. Like, if you're just like, well, I don't know, but there's got to be an explanation. What you've just done there is you've taken a leap of faith. I don't know, but there's got to be an explanation. I think something to realize too. You know, if I could just say it like this, science can neither prove nor disprove the existence of God. Just can't, because you're dealing by nature of what the universe is. If it exists, okay, you know, so for the person who's like, well, you know, God should be visible within the universe, and I would go, well, man, scientists through the millennia have said that he is. So that's an interpretive lens, right? You know, how many folks over the years have been like, wow, as I study biology, as I study astronomy, man, it points to me to a creator. It makes me marvel at creation. This is a viewpoint of the scientist. It's not inherent to the data. Okay. But beyond that, if you take this viewpoint of like, well, God should be within creation, and since I can't see God, you know, basically you're claiming there's a big man in the sky who I can look out with a telescope and see there's no big man in the sky. No, that logic is flawed. And the reason it's flawed is I would expect that the creator is bigger than the creation. Like, I don't expect the artist to be in the canvas or the painting. The artist paints on the canvas. He molds it. He is not the clay. In fact, the only way that I would be able to know the artist, if I, like, let's say I'm living in the painting, the only way I would know the artist as the one in the painting is if the artist painted himself within the painting, right? Because my entire world is confined and smaller than the one who's making it. And for us as Christians, we say that's exactly what happened in the person of Jesus Christ. God painted himself in the painting so that we can know who he is. And aside from, if he did not choose to reveal himself, we would have no clue.
Yeah.
But we believe that he has.
Yeah. And that says a lot, because that means that we don't have faith without evidence, right? It's not just like, believe me, bro. It's like God has worked in history, in the painting, to do and to show himself and to display his words, his truth. And so we, as Christians, can look at different aspects of history in different times, specifically at Jesus, and seeing what's happened with him, and to say, hey, no, we have reason to believe that God is real.
Yeah.
And he's worked.
Yeah. And I would say also, you know, Mark, earlier you alluded, you said, all right, you know, it keeps coming back to the evolution conversation, right? I think even then it's important to realize there are things that evolution assumes, like jumps in faith. And I'm not here to prove or disprove evolution. I actually think it's not a central issue of the faith, and there are going to be folks who disagree with me on that. But I would just point out that throughout, and we did an episode on this, how Christians have disagreed about how to read Genesis 1 for as long as there have been Christians. So the idea of, like, okay, am I reading this text faithfully if it's a literal 6-day creation or not? That's a subject of debate. I personally believe in a 6-day, but there are plenty of those whom I would consider brothers and sisters in the faith who believe that passage to be allegorical. Okay. But here's what I would tell you. If you think, okay, I'm going to abandon sort of belief in fairies and unicorns for what's rational and real and evidence-based, so I'll ditch God creating everything to here's evolutionary biology that's been developed over millions and, depending on how long, years, right? Evolution, I said this again, has jumps that you're going to have to make in faith. For instance, evolution does not give you the origin of life. It assumes life is already there, right? So like evolution is change after life already exists. So when it comes to, all right, like if you sort of believe in this like primordial sludge that somehow becomes life. No one has ever been able to create that. Nothing's ever been able to be observed in terms of, I mean, if these chemicals were here in this place, now life exists, where before it was, just, vapors and gas and just raw material. Like, no one is ever, like, that's a leap to say, all right, now we've got bacteria or simple life from no life. Like, that's a jump. When it comes to the evolution of complex biological systems, this also is a jump. When it comes to there are gaps in fossil records, there's this thing called the Cambrian explosion, which is basically about, if you're taking this viewpoint of old Earth and evolution, right? There's this thing where about, in your view, if you believe the Earth is that old, about 540 million years ago, you suddenly have all these, just many major animal body plans appear relatively rapidly in the fossil record that weren't there before. Okay, so you've got to account for how suddenly this complex organisms were just suddenly there. Like, it's not as simple as, well, I just follow sludge to humanity. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. Like, you're going to have to take leaps of faith, which means that your belief system is not purely based on logic. It's based on preferences.
Yeah. Yep. And even accepting some parts of evolution, if you accept all of it or parts of it, that wouldn't logically follow to atheism.
Yeah.
Like that is a philosophical jump. That's a faith jump, because to say, because the world was formed and shaped this way, that means there's no God. It just, the one does not equal the other. People are making philosophical jumps, and just like Burt said, different kinds of jumps where the two do not equal.
Yeah, that's a humanist perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've observed this, there must not be a God.
Right.
Whoa, what?
What a jump.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this was really great. And if you've made it this far into the episode, which I think you do, I think you make it through every episode you watch.
You winner, you.
I hope that if you've been having those thoughts in the back of your mind, like, is believing in God, or is the things I'm learning about, through science classes or through videos or the Discovery Channel, wherever you're getting your knowledge about how the world and universe were made, I hope that you're not creating this giant fork where I either have to decide I'm going to believe what people are discovering and finding, or I get to believe in God. I think that it's a much deeper question than that. I want to invite you to hang on for the ride and just trust that God is still working in your life. Thanks for watching.